A casino burns to the ground, a riff changes rock forever, and behind it all, 5 musicians fighting to hold it together. This is the Deep Purple story.
So I never knew their music. I mean, I'd heard this one thing about Smoke on the Water or something like that. I'd never actually seen them.
If I wasn't speaking to him, he wasn't speaking to me, we weren't being creative.
We were working very hard. We were all at odds with each other. In fact, John Lord put it best. He said it was death by 1,000 cuts.
I've been mistreated.
What does it take for a band to change the sound of rock music forever? For Deep Purple, it began with a single riff that would echo around the world and a hunger to be louder, faster, and more fearless than anyone else. From a group of young British musicians in the late 1960s came a sound so heavy and daring that it helped invent hard rock and shaped the birth of heavy metal. But behind the music lies a story of rivalries, reinventions, and some of the most explosive performances ever captured on stage.
If you want to know what Deep Purple was in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, then to me you play in rock. That tells you what Deep Purple is all about.
The seeds of Deep Purple were sown in the late 1960s. An idea for a revolving band called Roundabout quickly solidified around keyboardist John Lord, drummer Ian Pace, guitarist Ritchie Blackmore, singer Rod Evans, and bassist Nick Simper. Soon the quintet renamed themselves Deep Purple, a title suggested by Blackmore after his grandmother's favourite song. Their debut album, Shades of Deep Purple, was released in 1968. It showcased a band still finding its voice, blending psychedelic rock with elements of classical and pop. The album contained their first significant success, a cover of Joe South's Hush. As Lord recalled in a 1983 interview, Hush was a bit of a fluke really. We just tried it out in the studio and it worked. It had that infectious quality. The song soared to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States, giving Deep Purple an early foothold across the Atlantic. Over the next year they released 2 more albums, experimenting with psychedelia, classical ideas, and long jams. They were building a name, but for some, the sound simply wasn't heavy enough. A new, sharper direction was calling.
When I was younger, so much younger than today.
But for all their early success, this particular lineup, this first spark of Deep Purple, wasn't destined to last. Something, or someone, had to change. And when it did, everything about their sound exploded.
By this time I was looking towards people like Paul Rodgers, blues singers. You know, I was really impressed with the way he could sing and that type of style. So that's why we parted ways.
A pivotal moment in Deep Purple's history arrived in 1969. Blackmore, Lord, and Pace felt the band needed a different vocal and bass dynamic to truly unleash the heavier sound they envisioned. Evans and Simper were replaced by 2 individuals who would become integral to Deep Purple's legendary status: Ian Gillan on vocals and Roger Glover on bass. This lineup, universally known as Mark II, would go on to define the band's golden age. Their first appearance together was a fiery club show in London in July 1969. Gillan, with his powerful soaring vocal range and ability to scream with controlled intensity, was a revelation. He possessed a theatrical flair and a stage presence that perfectly complemented the band's evolving sound. Glover's bass lines drove the band forward and shaped their songs. The chemistry within this new configuration was immediate and explosive. As Glover stated in a 1995 interview, When Ian and I joined, it just clicked. There was this immediate energy that we hadn't quite had before. It felt like a band that was ready to take on the world. Their first album as Mark II, Deep Purple in Rock, released in 1970, was a seismic shift. Gone were the psychedelic leanings and orchestral experiments. In their place was a raw, aggressive, and undeniably heavy sound that would become a blueprint for hard rock and early heavy metal. Tracks like Speed King and the epic 9-minute journey of Child in Time, with its chilling Cold War theme, showcased their newfound power and virtuosity. The album was a massive success in the UK and solidified their reputation as a formidable force. This period was marked by an intense touring schedule and a remarkably prolific creative output. They followed Deep Purple in Rock with Fireball, which continued their heavy trajectory, proving this new lineup was no fluke.
What you do, just so long, yeah.
And then came Machine Head, released in 1972. This wasn't just another album, it was the one that gave the world a riff born out of a literal inferno.
I originally wrote it like that, with a kind of that didn't kind of go down with the others at the time, so we kept it to the
The band was recording in Montreux, Switzerland. During a Frank Zappa concert nearby, a fan fired a flare gun, setting the casino on fire. As Gillan recounted in a 1994 interview, the story of Smoke on the Water is just that, a story. We were there, it happened, and we wrote a song about it. It's pretty straightforward, really. That blaze gave the world Smoke on the Water.
What is the story behind Smoke on the Water? Was it a mountain burnt down? I mean, what? And you kind of... So you have to tell the story again. But what I love about Smoke on the Water is if you want to know the story, listen to the words. It's a story song.
And this song here tells the story of most of the things that happened while we were out there.
Blackmore added in a 1995 interview with Guitar World, "That riff came from messing around during a sound check. I wanted something simple but strong, and it just stuck." The now legendary guitar riff is instantly recognizable worldwide, a testament to its simple yet powerful structure and compelling narrative.
Bum 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 bum. And I thought, play that backwards. Put something to it, and you've got bum 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 bum. That's how I came up with it.
Hang on. Are you telling me
Yes.
that the famous lick, the Smoke on the Water, is from Beethoven?
It's an interpretation of inversion. You turn it back and play it back and forth. It's actually Beethoven's Fifth. So I owe him a lot of money.
The band's live performances during this era were legendary. Their shows were high-energy affairs, often featuring extended improvisations and dazzling displays of individual musicianship. The synergy between Blackmore and Lord, in particular, was captivating, their dueling solos pushing each other to new heights.
I have to say that I think the prime mover behind Purple's music all these years has been Ritchie Blackmore. He almost invariably is the one that comes up with the kernel of an idea.
The live album Made in Japan, recorded in 1972, captured the Mark II lineup at the peak of their powers. Originally intended only for the Japanese market, its unexpected global success made it widely regarded as one of the greatest live rock albums of all time, a testament to their onstage chemistry and raw power. But even as they conquered the world, the internal tensions that fueled their creativity began to tear them apart.
Something happened. I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure actually that either of them could now iterate exactly what it was that went down between the two of them. But something did.
He was, as I said, an alpha guy, so was I. He wanted to control, I wanted to control. So we butted heads because of that. You know, we still respected each other, but we never got on. And we just couldn't be in the same room. That was the problem.
The departure of Gillan and Glover marked the end of Deep Purple's most commercially successful period, but it by no means signaled the end of the band. Blackmore, Lord and Pace remained, and they embarked on a search for new voices. The band reinvented itself as Mark III, bringing in David Coverdale on lead vocals and Glenn Hughes on bass and backing vocals. Coverdale, a former salesman with a bluesy, soulful voice, brought a different flavour to Deep Purple's sound. Hughes, a highly skilled bassist and an equally soulful vocalist, added a funk and R&B sensibility that hadn't been present before. The new lineup released Burn in 1974, an album that saw Deep Purple incorporating more blues, funk and soul influences into their hard rock foundation. The title track, Burn, became an instant classic, showcasing the dual vocal attack of Coverdale and Hughes and Blackmore's blistering guitar work. They followed Burn with Stormbringer. This album further explored the funk and soul elements, a direction that did not sit well with Blackmore, who preferred a more purely hard rock and classical influenced approach. Blackmore's increasing frustration, coupled with personal differences, led to his departure in 1975.
I just felt that the band was becoming too bluesy, not bluesy, but kind of funky. And I don't like funky soul music. I like blues and I like classical music, hard rock, medieval rock, but I don't like that funky blues. And that's when I said, I'm off.
He went on to form his own highly successful band, Rainbow. So just as Deep Purple seemed unstoppable, the lineup was about to implode and start all over again. Blackmore's exit left a significant void, but Deep Purple chose to continue. For their next incarnation, Mark IV, they enlisted American guitarist Tommy Bolin. Bolin, a talented musician with a background in jazz fusion and funk, brought wild and unpredictable solos. They released Come Taste the Band in 1975. While praised by many critics, it struggled to gain the same commercial traction as its predecessors. Tommy's personal struggles, combined with the immense pressure of filling Blackmore's shoes, contributed to a challenging period for the band. By 1976, Deep Purple's momentum had waned. Exhausted by constant touring and facing internal strife, the band played their final show in Liverpool in March 1976. Deep Purple officially disbanded, bringing an end to an intense and incredibly productive chapter in rock history. For 8 years, Deep Purple remained dormant. The members pursued various solo projects and other band ventures, but the legacy of Deep Purple continued to loom large. The demand from fans for a reunion of the classic Mark II lineup was immense. Finally, in 1984, the thought to be impossible happened. Gillan, Blackmore, Glover, Lord and Pace reunited.
Deep Purple, one of the original heavy metal bands, has decided to reunite after 8 years for an album and a tour. To reintroduce themselves to the music industry, they held this press conference in New York City.
The news sent shockwaves through the rock world. The reunited Mark II lineup released Perfect Strangers in 1984. The album was a triumphant return, reminding fans why they mattered. Songs like Knocking at Your Back Door and the title track, Perfect Strangers, demonstrated the band could still write powerful, compelling hard rock. The album was a massive commercial success, reaching the top 10 in numerous countries and going platinum in the United States. The subsequent world tour was a monumental event, with fans flocking to see the legendary lineup back on stage.
Richie Blackmore, Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, John Lord, Ian Pace, Deep Purple. The storm reignites.
As Glover reflected in a 1996 interview, "It was amazing to be back on stage with those guys. There was a real sense of occasion, and the crowd's reaction was just incredible." They followed Perfect Strangers with The House of Blue Light in 1987. While still commercially successful, the album was met with a more mixed critical reception. Tensions between Gillan and Blackmore began to resurface, leading to Gillan's temporary departure in 1989. Joe Lynn Turner, formerly of Rainbow, took over vocal duties for the album Slaves and Masters. This album, with its more melodic hard rock sound, received a varied response. However, the fans' desire for Gillan's return was palpable, and in 1992, Gillan rejoined the band. This reunion culminated in the album The Battle Rages On, released in 1993.
One of rock's most enduring bands is back. Deep Purple is celebrating its 25th anniversary with a new album, The Battle Rages On, and world tour. After years of personal changes, the band's original lineup is also back.
Despite the album's strong material, the ongoing friction between Gillan and Blackmore became untenable. Blackmore, citing creative differences and a desire to pursue other musical avenues, left Deep Purple for the final time in November 1993, walking out after a show in Helsinki. His departure marked the end of an era. The band quickly brought in American shred guitar virtuoso Joe Satriani as a temporary replacement to complete the tour. Satriani, a renowned instrumentalist, performed admirably, but his stay was brief. In 1994, Deep Purple found a new permanent guitarist in Steve Morse, formerly of Dixie Dregs and Kansas. Morse's official announcement and subsequent recording of Perpendicular the following year ushered in a new chapter for the band. Morse's style brought new energy without the drama. As Morse commented in a 1998 interview, joining Deep Purple was an incredible opportunity. It was clear from the start that everyone wanted to make great music, and there was a real sense of camaraderie. In 2002, Lord, the band's founding keyboardist and a driving force behind their sound, announced his retirement. Don Airey, who had been filling in during Lord's illness and had played with Ozzy Osbourne, Rainbow and Black Sabbath, formally joined. Airey seamlessly integrated into the band, bringing his own distinct style while honouring Lord's legacy. With Morse and Airey on board, Deep Purple found stability. Over the next 2 decades, they recorded several albums and toured relentlessly, proving that the band's fire still burned. Their live performances continued to be energetic and captivating, showing that the band's fire hadn't gone out. In 2022, Morse announced his departure from the band to care for his wife. He was replaced by Simon McBride, a talented Irish guitarist who had previously toured with Ian Gillan and was made a permanent member later that year. McBride's arrival has brought a renewed vitality to Deep Purple's live performances. Deep Purple were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016, a clear recognition of their profound impact. From their early psychedelic leanings to their definitive hard rock sound and subsequent evolutions, they have consistently pushed boundaries and captivated audiences worldwide. Their influence on generations of musicians is undeniable, and their place in the history of rock music is firmly secured. Decades on, the roar of the crowd and the sheer force of their music prove that Deep Purple's flame still burns, loud, proud, and unstoppable.